Hello, Science and Magic YouTube channel. Welcome. My name is Amanda Levesque, and I am so excited that you're tuning in. I'm actually really interested in how this live stream will unfold. It's going to be really based in metaphors. We're going to explore how feminine energy is like water. And at the very end of this live stream, I will offer rituals that I have around how I consume and relate with water in my own life. This was an idea that was offered to me by one of my subscribers at our last live stream. And I thought, I like it. I have an Aquarius sun sign, meaning that is represented by the archetype of the water bearer. So not the water itself, but the holder of the water. Oh, hi, you two. Welcome in. Yes, I know. I'm so excited for this topic too. So I'm going to do a little bit of just kind of like riffing on some metaphors I thought of. And after each category, I'll have a little reflection in which you're welcome to reflect on your own, or you can share in the chat how you responded. My work centers around the nervous system, really, and then also pulling in mystery and magic and the unknown into that equation so that we can be our most healthy and vital selves. I am not specifically a feminine energy coach, though my work is centered around embodiment. And I find that more and more as time goes on, it becomes more relevant that it is tied into feminine energy. So we're going to talk about that in relationship with water. It's going to be a very artsy one. Oh, we have a Pisces, 4 times Pisces here. Okay, that's great. Yeah, any other water signs? I mean, Aquarius isn't a water sign, it's an air sign, but it holds the water. So this is just going to be really fun for me. And I appreciate, I can't remember who it was that offered this suggestion, but here you go. Here's your video. And so the first thing that I thought of, let me describe a little bit about how I approach masculine and feminine energy. I know a lot of the people who follow my channel are pretty familiar with this topic. But just in case you're tuning in, you found my channel and you're like, what is she talking about? The whole world holds different elements of masculine and feminine energy, and each person holds those elements as well. So at a base level, you can think of masculine energy as energy that leads, that drives, that initiates, that holds, that penetrates. Whereas feminine energy, it responds, it releases, it opens, it softens, it allows, and it responds to that masculine energy. And we have structure set up in place within us and within our relationships and within our work. And it's a really beautiful and sacred way, I think, to just talk about life. So if you are a, feminine essence being, if you feel like a feminine essence is in your natural, the way that you like to express your body, your sexuality, your sensuality, you might find this video to be really helpful. And even if you're a masculine energy being, to understand the feminine is a really powerful thing in order to witness and to hold structure and container. Oh, Cancer, Moon, and Sun. Yes, I have a Cancer rising. Yeah. So let's see, where was I? I got distracted. I thank you for tuning in, everybody. So with feminine energy, as I speak about these metaphors, think of it as feeling. So this isn't a literal thing. See if what I'm sharing activates something within you. I find that a lot of times things are shared of feminine energy that has to do with how to dress, how to present yourself, what to say, and all of that stuff is really important. But here I'm going to address the essence, the embodiment. And as I share and let water kind of teach and guide, that might awaken something within you. So water is mostly of what's made up in our body. Like we're made up of water. We're water beings. So right away, before we just start, just connect to the water of your body, like the blood that's flowing. You can think of the lymph You can think of the fluids in your system. Just really sink into your body right now and sense into the water. You are a vessel that is holding water. And already you might notice that you're more in your body. And by noticing that you have a lot of water in your body, noticing the element of water, you might notice a softening, a pouring. This is the start into sinking into feminine energy, feeling the water in your own body. So the first thing I want to take note of is that water forms to the container that it is held in. I'll say it again. Water forms to the container that it is held in. It surrenders to that container. It forms to it. It forms to its shape. It spreads out in all directions. You can think of a riverbed. It forms to that riverbed, to the landscape underneath the river, to the sides of the river. You can think of water as pouring over a waterfall. It forms the landscape that it's pouring over. It is held by the pool underneath it, and then it continues to flow. You can think of water being held in a lake. It is literally held in the container of the lake. It's vast. It could be held in a glass. I have a glass of water here. It's held in this container, a jug. So water doesn't have a shape on its own. It's held in a container. So in this example, the masculine energy is this glass. It's the container, and the feminine energy is being held. Now, the feminine energy isn't moving here. Oftentimes, feminine energy moves. But we're going to talk about, again, all these different analogies and metaphors. So in this way, you can think of feminine energy as being surrendered. It is responsive to the container that it is in. It is responsive to the riverbed that it is being flowed through. It is responsive to the bottom of the lake or the bottom of the ocean floor and all the landscape around it. It just yields. If you think of water, it doesn't pull in and up and have any sort of structure within itself. The structure is held by the container it's held by, and it is influenced by its container. And I think this is the first thing to notice too about feminine energy is letting yourself be influenced. I think often at least in the United States, in the Western world, it's really revered to be, proud, independent woman that, self-sufficient, isn't influenced, can really hold your own. And yes, we are each spirits of our own agency. And for me, my ultimate happiness is influenced by my relationship to the divine, to God. But when I tap into my feminine energy, I let myself be affected by my masculine energy partner. I let myself be influenced. And that is vulnerability. That is feminine energy of letting yourself feel something, letting yourself yield. And I don't know, perhaps, if you're tuning in here, is it scary to let yourself feel vulnerable? Does this feel not intuitive to you? I hear a lot like we're responsible for our own feelings. It's true. It's true. No one can make us feel any particular way. But at the end of the day, if you let yourself respond and feel in accordance to whatever the structure is around you, this could be a person, this could be the setup of your business, this could be feel it. Let yourself feel it and show it. Stream that emotion through you. And this is feminine energy. Don't hold on to it. Don't grasp it. Let it flow. And water lets itself be fully held by its container. So like I said, there's no part of water that's lifting in and up. Water spreads out. Again, I'll pull this glass up, but this water is fully held. Not a single part of it is pulling away from its container. It yields, it's held. It spreads out so that every part of it is being touched by the boundaries around it, and it is able to relax into that boundary. And so thinking of that as feminine energy of relaxing, spreading out, yielding to earth, opening up, widening, softening. Of course, you have to feel like an element of safety in that. And I've talked about this in previous videos. But do you feel safety in I think the most important thing is feeling safety in the universe at large. You feel safe in this world and, the comfort of the higher power. If you work with a higher power, do you feel safe in the laws of the world, like the way that universal laws? And then do you feel safe in your relationship? Can you spread out? Can you yield? Do you feel safe in the structure of your business, of your career, of your work? And you could also just practice surrendering in general to the universe and seeing what boundaries come up to hold you. Like it's a dance. There's not one starts. I mean, of course, it helps to have a solid container, one that feels safe and to feel safe. But also, what's it like to just soften regardless and to say, here I am, I'm feminine energy, I'm yielding, I'm softening. Can you catch me? And see what rises to catch you. And I know that's scary. That's a big ask, but that's just an inquiry. Again, this is very metaphorical. I'm kind of riffing with some of this stuff. I've definitely struggled with this for a long while. Now I'm learning and practicing vulnerability so that I can be more in my feminine. Good for you. Yeah, a lot of people feel nervous, feeling vulnerable. And I get that. Like, it's a scary thing to soften, but feminine energy is vulnerability. It's letting yourself be affected and influenced and feeling your feelings. And it is the most beautiful thing to offer this world. There's lots of beautiful things, but it's one of them for sure. Have you found that there's certain things that help you to practice your vulnerability, or is there certain things that someone can say to you, or environments or ways to practice, maybe for someone who's tuning in who feels the same? When should we be in our feminine and when in our masculine? This is different for every person. For me, I love flowing in my feminine more than my masculine. But when it comes to, running my business, like things like setting up the microphone and the camera and the structure for this conversation was all masculine energy. And I have a little bit of an outline in front of me, but it's the outline is the masculine. So I did that earlier in prep, and now I'm flowing. I am in my, masculine by showing up a little bit, but it feels more of a flow. Like I'm being held by the structure, by the way the camera set up, by the microphone, by the outline, by this room. So it'll just depend on what feels good to you. If you like to have polarity in your relationship, you'll definitely, and you have a masculine energy partner, you definitely want to be more in your feminine in relationship to your partner and when you interact with them. I like to be in my feminine when I'm going out on an errand. Now, if I'm really like, if I have my list and I'm crossing things off and I'm like getting the things and that's a very masculine energy. But sometimes I try to like just lean back and like just let myself be and enjoy looking through things and sifting and like reading labels. And so you can play with it, whatever feels good for you. There's no should though. It's what feels good to you. I feel like this connects with the messages. Is it the messages? I think it was maybe a typo. Mina talks about. Yeah. I mean, Mina's been a huge teacher for me in this. So I will always give her credit, for her teachings, for the way that she supported my YouTube channel. So Mina, the universe guru, if you don't know her, head over there. She's incredible. Yay, you caught me live. Good to see you. Presence has purpose. That's a great handle. I love being sat on a chair. I feel so held and secure. So feel that. I love sitting on a chair. Feel it. Let yourself feel held. In a way, that's the container. So play around with that embodiment. Like let yourself pour into the chair and feel the effects of gravity flowing through your body in the way the chair is there for you. It's great. When I feel like shutting down my feelings and keeping them to myself, that's when I pray and just release the emotion by speaking it. That's great. Yeah. So I love that you pray. That's a big practice of mine, releasing it to something bigger. Like in my conditioned mind right now, I don't have the answer. So I'm going to release this to something bigger, to something larger, and then asking for that help and then letting that integrate. That's beautiful. by speaking it as the next term, allowing yourself to share it, or you could just feel it. What is your body doing? Is your chest tightening? Are your tears flowing? Do you feel like foggy in your throat? Be with your feelings in pure essence. And if you're with, a masculine energy, they can witness that essence, how maybe they're influencing you, how your day has been influencing you. But let yourself be affected. And takes letting the guard down and feeling safe. Okay. So some masculine structure examples, if you have a relationship that has polarity between masculine and feminine, that would be a great example of like what sort of structure does the masculine energy and relationship put into place for your emotions? Do you feel like you can yield to them? Do you feel like you're held? What's the container? Is it like as wide as the ocean, or is it super small and tight? The structure of your business. So what sort of systems do you have in place to be able to yield to your creativity? So things like, do you have someone helping you with bookkeeping? Do you have a certain sort of rhythm? Like for me, I like to live stream on Wednesdays, I found out. So that's a rhythm. I don't have to creatively place that. I just kind of schedule live streams on Wednesday. Of course, I have a little bit of flexibility. If I'm not feeling it, I'll reschedule. Like I have a automated software program that when someone signs up for my email, it tags. When they, sign up for my membership program, it adds that tag for the membership. So it does all of that automated. So that's a masculine structure. So I have a ton of things that are just automated that I don't think about. And then I can show up here and do things that are more creative. I can spend time sifting with spirit and letting messages vessel through me, like things like that. So that's the container. Or you can think of the structure of your day. So what routines and rituals do you have set up in place that really enhance your vitality and beauty practices? For me, for example, like I love doing gua sha in my face, where I work with stones to work the tissue, to get lymph flowing. And it took like a learning curve to learn how to do that and, what the strokes are. But now it's just set. Like I love to do it. It's not a specific time of day actually, but I love to do it at least once a day, and I'll maybe listen to some good music and I just do it. So that's like really set into place for me. Or I talk about my oil massages all the time because I'm obsessed with them, but often before bed, I just, I have my whole ritual. I lay out the towel, I have rose water infused oil and light a candle, and I just do I don't think about it. I don't have to learn it. It's a practice that I have that I do. And so that's the structure. And then the flow is I just am able to flow through my day as if it's the riverbed and I'm the river. So some questions here are, do you feel held in your relationship if you have one? Does it feel like a safe container? And if not, what do you need to feel safe? What structures have you put into place in your work life to hold the feminine flow of your creativity and expression? So feel free to respond to these if you feel pulled to. You can either be journaling them or you can share in the chat. What structures have you put into place in your work life to hold the feminine flow of your creativity and expression? And then the last question is, what routines and rituals have you automated in your life to allow more flow throughout your day? So what routines and rituals have you automated in your life to allow more flow throughout your day? You and Mina are the only projectors I resonate with on YouTube. Thank you. Oh, you're so welcome. And it's funny because I think the first YouTube live stream I did with Mina was, it was about us being projectors. So if you haven't seen that yet, I'm sure you have. That's how a lot of people find me actually. But we talk about being projectors and what that means to us. And it was a really beautiful conversation. So I'm so glad you resonate with us, though. I think that's really important to find people you resonate with. Okay, so the next aspect of this is water has power. Water is incredibly powerful. Yes, it yields. Yes, it's held. Yes, there's a softness, but think tsunamis, floods, a roaring river that could just sweep you away if you accidentally fell in. Like, think of that power. Think of a huge waterfall and the mist that comes from that and the way the water hits the earth, or like the storm of an ocean. Like, water is not just soft and yielding. Like, water is incredibly powerful. It is untamed, fully expressed, and it can actually be destructive. Like, a tsunami is destructive. A roaring river, a flood can be destructive. And I don't think we like to talk about this a lot in regards to feminine energy, but it's really important because there is a softness to feminine energy, of course, like that's the essence. There's also a power. But I was reflecting upon this power. And if you think of it, it's the way that wind flows through the water that makes it powerful. It's the way that the earth maneuvers the water that makes it powerful, and yet it's still yielding. So the power is flowing through the water, and the water is still responding. I think pure feminine energy settles for no less than complete, unbridled presence from the masculine. And there's a tendency to want to destroy anything that's not present. And again, this is a bit more wild. This is more of an edgier take to feminine energy, but it really can move mountains just by letting the wind move through it, like the waves, by letting the earth influence it, like the riverbed, like the rocks it flows over, by letting gravity have its way, by falling from the sky. And so just remembering that when I connect to my feminine energy, I have a great amount of power. Now, here's where a bit more of that magic or spirituality comes in. I think that the power that flows through is the power from the divine, from God, from the universe. And so in what way can you yield to that? How can you yield to let that universal power flow through you and express your power in a way that's open, that's not from within you, that's flown through you? And how do you perhaps, in what ways do you want to destroy something around you that isn't fully present? So some of the reflections here, do you feel connected to your feminine power? Like, do you feel powerful in your feminine energy? What do you wish to destroy in your life? Let yourself go here. Like, close your eyes. What do you wish to destroy in your life? And do you feel like your wild side is integrated? Feminine energy is wild. Mirrored after Mother Nature. Mother Nature is wild. You don't look at a tsunami and say, wow, that's calm. You say, that is a force. So this is a wild energy. And the question here is, do you feel connected to that? Do you feel like that part of you can be seen and held and loved and expressed? And the other question here is, where are you holding back? So what are you holding back in your life? What is it, an emotion? Is it an expression? Is it a way of being? Like, how are you staying small? How are you staying a little glass of water versus a wide open ocean with tumultuous waves? Notice how this feels to talk about this. Is there fear? Is there hesitation? Do you feel like you won't be loved? So let me know what you think about that one. I just noticed that right away. That was the second thing I thought of. Like, first of all, I was like, okay, so water yields to its container. It has this ability to be held, to fill out, to respond. The second thing is, water is incredibly powerful. I mean, yeah, there's lots of examples of water being peaceful, and we're going there, but it also destroys. And I think we need to really acknowledge that when talking about feminine energy. So the next aspect is water rejuvenates, it hydrates, and it refreshes. The feeling of sipping a delicious glass of water when you're thirsty, there's truly nothing like it. Just think of that when you're so thirsty and, like a soda won't do, juice won't do, no, glass of water. Maybe a cool shower on a hot summer day when you're just feeling so musty and just like stuffy, and you just step into the shower and it's cold and feels so good and refreshing. Maybe a swim in the lake or the ocean. I live near the Great Lakes. I'm in Minnesota, and so I love dipping my feet into Lake Superior when I drive up north. It's just like the most beautiful water. It's cold, but it's refreshing. Maybe splashing water on your face in the morning. That feeling of like, okay, I'm just like kind of like still in dream world, and then you splash some cold water and it just refreshes you. Maybe I love using hydrotherapy in my healing practice. So spending time soaking in water in, a warm bath or a cold plunge or anything like that, anything related to like soaking in water and healing. It doesn't always have to be cold. It can feel very refreshing. I live in Minnesota, to go soak in a warm bath or a hot tub or something like that. That can feel refreshing and rejuvenating in its own way. But point is, the water is all around. So feminine energy is rejuvenating just by nature. It's refreshing, it's hydrating, and it's really got that quality of just energizing. When you walk into a room inhabiting your feminine energy, it truly has a refreshing presence to all who encounter it. That's what feminine energy is. It's like taking a sip of delicious water when you are dehydrated. There's nothing like it. It quenches thirst. Think vitality, think juicy, think overflow. Think taking in, just delicious water. So some reflection questions around this is, how do I feel rejuvenated and refreshed in my own body? So in order to inhabit feminine energy and emit refreshing energy, rejuvenating energy, we must feel it in our own bodies. We must feel that I am rejuvenated in my own right. I am refreshed right now. And in that way, I will be refreshing. I mean, I just love this because I want to be a refreshing energy. I want that. Like, what an offering to give the world. My presence is refreshing. My presence rejuvenates. And what can I do to enhance my vitality and become more luscious? So again, that luscious, that oasis in the desert. What can I do to enhance my vitality? And again, in many of my videos, I talk a lot about what this looks like, how to do it, what it entails, nervous system care, beauty rituals, grooming, all of that stuff. But just think, if you want to become refreshing, what do you do to enhance your vitality? And then how can I carry that lusciousness with me so that others may be refreshed by it? How can I carry that lusciousness with me that I've been cultivating so that others may be refreshed by it? So you could spend all day doing beauty rituals and feeling yummy in your nervous system and hide it when you walk out in public because you don't feel comfortable with it being seen for whatever reason. So how can you let it pour out? How can you evoke more presence when you feel rejuvenating, when you feel luscious? And so the last piece of this, the last metaphor I have, is that water mesmerizes. Water mesmerizes. Think of a sparkling turquoise ocean. And that water is like so bright and beautiful. Or the trickle of a mountain stream, the way it looks and sounds. Like, I've been on hikes before in the mountains and I'm just like so tired, and I sit in front of a mountain stream and I just watch and listen to the water, and I just feel like so mesmerized. The stillness of a lake in the morning hours. So sitting and have your morning coffee or tea and just watching the almost like glass-like surface of the water and just letting your mind just go. falling asleep near ocean waves, how mesmerizing that is, the flow of it, the feel of it, the ebb and flow. So water mesmerizes, it lulls, even contemplating the depth of the ocean floor, like how deep and dark and mysterious that is. It's mesmerizing to sit with. So water mesmerizes, it stops you in your tracks, it takes your breath away, it soothes you just by being around it. And it can be incredibly peaceful. So yes, water can be powerful, it can be destructive, but it can be incredibly peaceful. And in this way, feminine energy is captivating. Like think siren energy here. So you can think of more of that like seductive, mysterious, subconscious pull, where masculine energy can't help but look and notice and be lulled into the peace, to the mystery. Like they may not consciously know what's happening, masculine energy, but it just is pulled and drawn to feminine energy. It's peaceful to be around. It's soothing. There's depth to it. It's hypnotizing. And the reflection questions I have here are: one, am I connected to my inner siren? Siren being that voice that draws sailors to the, to the jagged cliffs in the ocean, and they can't help but drive to that because they're more mesmerized. Like, am I connected to my inner siren? Do I feel sexy? How does it feel to drop my presence into my hips and to let them soften and sway as I walk? That really mesmerizing way of being. Many people, I find, their hips are really tight and rigid, and they don't necessarily feel safe in moving them and having presence in them. Are my movements slow and silky, connected to the earth, or are they quick and jagged? Are my movements slow and silky? Like, how am I moving? Is it mesmerizing the way that I move, or am I rushing, going, tightening, choppy? Do I dress my beautiful self like the goddess that I am? Am I mesmerizing in how I'm moving and dressing and being? All of these things create a mesmerizing energy and help tap you into the feminine. So let me review, and feel free to ask any questions or share responses. And then I will share some water rituals that I have. So the first is that water forms the container it is held in. Water forms the container it is held in. Water has power. Water rejuvenates, hydrates, and refreshes. And water mesmerizes. All of these elements, I think, can teach us quite a bit about feminine energy, about how to evoke more of that essence within and through the body. So that was so fun. I love, love, love taking long and hot showers. Yeah, it feels so good. And there's a mesmerizing quality. Like, for me, when I'm in the shower, I just feel mesmerized by the way the water pours onto my back, even onto my chest area. If I turn to face the shower, the steam that comes through, it feels like a massage. It feels juicy. It feels like hydrating, peaceful, all of those things. And let that tap you into feminine energy. So may we all let water be our teacher when it comes to evoking feminine energy. Like, yes, things like nails, yes, things like makeup and putting your hair, in a certain way. But how are we moving? How is our energy? How are we relating to others? And can it be from the essence of water? Okay. So I want to share a little bit about my water rituals and what I do to create a delicious glass of water. I come to this with an open mind, please, because I do a lot. And if you're someone who kind of just drinks from the tap, it can feel overwhelming as I'm sharing, and you might have a reaction of irritation. I think it's silly. Sometimes I get that. So I'm usually really careful about who I share this with, because I'm not in the energy of convincing when I'm sharing. I'm in the energy of excitement. So I think however you drink water and however you interact with water is perfectly fine for you. I got into this several years ago, and I watched The Secret of Water, the documentary, and it just resonated. It just felt like, oh my gosh, this makes a lot of sense. And I started playing around with it, and now I can taste the water that I make. As you'll see, I call it making water, or recreating water. And the difference between that, and then if I go out to a restaurant, I can barely drink the water. Like, to me, it tastes different. Like, the water that I recreate feels soft and silky and really, yeah, I guess soft is the best way to put it. And it just nourishes me. So by no way am I an expert in this. And there's so many people who know so much. I mean, the way that I learned all of this stuff is by listening to podcasts, listening to experts, watching documentaries, reading books, all of those things. And so I may not have the exact terminology, but I've absorbed that information and integrated it into my method and how I drink water. So there's 3 steps, and we'll dive into each step: filter, remineralize, and restructure. So the first is filter. And a lot of people will do this. Like, they'll have like a Brita water filter in their fridge, or one hooked up to their sink. Definitely do some research as to what filters actually really pull everything from the water. There's a lot of harmful chemicals and like prescription medications and birth control and things that can get into the tap water. So you want to make sure that even chlorine and fluoride, and it's pulled from the water. You do not want to be drinking these things. So the way that I do it, I used to have a reverse osmosis machine that I hooked up to my sink, and it would take a while to fill a gallon of water. It actually really makes you appreciate like what goes into filtering water. But now I have water containers that I bring to the grocery store, and they have just like a refill. It's so cheap. It's like 10 cents a gallon or something. I mean, it's so cheap. And I fill up the water there. So I used to have glass, but I'm kind of veering away from that. I think it's good to carry glass, but I don't know. I live in Minnesota, like I said, and it's kind of slippery, and just carrying glass containers, it just feels a little dangerous. So I got this BPA BPA free plastic that I have 2 gallons of these, and then I have a big 5-gallon. And I will fill up the water at the store, usually 7 gallons total a week. And then I bring them back with me to my place. And that's RO water. So reverse osmosis water is just completely stripped of everything. Like, it's lifeless water. If you were to just drink reverse osmosis water, it could even pull minerals from your own body. So making sure the next step is remineralizing. So however you filter your water, again, do the research. I know a lot of people really like Berkey water containers, but you definitely don't want to be drinking the chemicals and prescription medications and all that stuff. It's kind of icky. So remineralizing means putting the minerals back into the water. And I will say, ideally, before, we keep talking about this, if you live next to a natural spring that is high up, like in the mountains, that's ideal, right? You would just bring your water containers and fill up that spring water, and that spring water is restructured, it's remineralized, it's fresh, like all that stuff. If you have a spring that's more ground level, it can be a little more dangerous because there might be runoff from, pesticides and farms, and we just don't know what's in it. So the water quality is not necessarily safe in that regard. So Mother Nature provides the most perfect water. We just mess with it, through piping, through adding chemicals, through things like this. So I want to back up and just say, water at its source, the top of a mountain from a spring, like, yum, that's delicious water. And if you have access to that, just do that. You don't need to do any of this other stuff. So the next step is remineralizing, and this is adding minerals back into the water. So there's several ways you can do this. Okay, how am I going to do this? So I have this, which this is actually for restructuring. I'm going to talk about that next, but this has a mineral basket in it. So that little bottom cartridge, that's a basket. And when I use this machine to restructure, it also remineralizes the water. So I take the 5-gallon and the gallon containers, and I pour it into that vortex machine, and then it runs for 27 minutes. It's like a little tornado, and I'll talk about why. It also remineralizes the water, and then I pour that water back into my bottles to drink. Other ways, so you'll probably see these at the grocery store, trace mineral drops. Honestly, I don't love these. I don't like the taste. I just really don't like the taste. It changes the taste and it makes me not want to drink water. I found Quinton hypertonic solution. Actually, I'm just going to drop the link. I'm not an affiliate with them or anything, but it's a little bit, it's a little bit of a financial investment. Here, I'll put it in the, oh, I can't. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll put it in the comments. But they come in little glass vials, and you just break open the glass vial, and then you pour it into your water, and those are your minerals for the day. And that can be a really good way to get your minerals. And I don't really taste it, so I like that. And the other way you can do this is by a little salt infusion. So this is actually salt has a lot of minerals if you use a high quality salt. So I love this container. This will restructure the water, which is the third step, but this is salt. And then I add water, and the salt doesn't absorb all the way. And then I have a little wooden scoop, which I don't have with me right now. It's in the kitchen actually. And I just dip it in there, and I have a scoop of the salt infusion into my glass of water. And this remineralizes the water. So this is more of a glass by glass basis, and you don't want to do several scoops throughout the day. So I like to do that in the morning. So there's all sorts of ways. Himalayan salt can remineralize water. So if you just start to do some research about how to remineralize my water, then you'll be getting some really delicious minerals as you drink the water. What do you think of bottled water? I'm not a fan of bottled water. I mean, it depends on the company, of course, but I really steer away from plastics. Microplastics are totally a thing. And I think when water is held in plastics for too long, it can kind of absorb some of those plastics, especially if it's out in the sun. And I've heard that a lot of water bottle companies, it's just tap water. So it just depends on the company, but mainly because of the plastic. And again, I don't love that I carry the water and store it in plastic. I like that it's BPA free. I prefer it to be in glass, but I just had to kind of make the decision not to carry around heavy glass in icy parking lots. So any way to reduce having plastic, I think, is the best way. Okay, so then the next step here would be restructuring. And this is the part where you might be like, okay, that's a little much, but bear with me. Water in its natural form it spirals. So think of it going down a waterfall. There's a certain flow and a spiral to it. And that creates the water molecules themselves to have a certain structure that is the most closely related to nature, to that spring water I was talking about. And if you think of the way water it's treated, and then it's also pushed through pipes that are really like with high force and like right degree angles. And yeah, just kind of like you could say, this not being too much, the water becomes traumatized in a way. And so you want to restructure it. And what you can do is you can freeze single water molecules using cryotherapy. And the water that is not restructured has a really disorganized pattern. And the water that is restructured through a variety of ways, which I'll talk about next, it has more of this beautiful formation of like a snowflake. And we want to be drinking the kind of sacred geometry type of water so that it's absorbed in the body. It's recognized by the body rather than just flowing through the body. So you can see, like, if you drink, well, first off, if you drink chemical laden water, you're absorbing the chemicals. If you drink just RO water, it's just like taking minerals from you and flowing through the body. And if you remineralize the water, but don't restructure it, it might just not be absorbed by the body. So I like to restructure the water. The first way I do this, the way that's most common, is just by this. This was quite an investment. Water vortexer is what it's called. But I pour the RO water in here and it remineralizes and restructures. And then I take that water and I store it in my water bottle. So I do this maybe once a day. I used to have a actual holder, like what is it called? A water dispenser. So I suggest doing that. There's an awesome website. I'm actually going to pop it. It's called alivewaters.com. They have some beautiful, beautiful glass containers that you can store water into. Yeah, that one I'll paste. But I love them. It's sacred geometry on the side, but you could restructure the water, pour it in, and then you always have structured water. I put my water here. So this water bottle, it's a glass water bottle. And it has a little sacred geometry. It says love and appreciation. I don't know if you all have heard, but if you like pray over your water, it restructures. So this just has that built into it. And then direct sunlight on water isn't the best for the water. So having it filter through this, this glass, it helps to revitalize the water as well. But again, this is glass. I drink out of this sometimes, but I don't love, like, I get kind of grossed out by the rim. I wash it and stuff, but I don't know. It's kind of my thing. And then I also have just this hydro flask that I use as well. And I like that because it has more of that top. So I'll pour this water bottle into like a glass, and this is what I drink. So that's what this water is. All my containers are with me right now. But if I just bring my water bottle, it'll be in the pink. And the other thing that I do is I have this hydrogen health water bottle. And sometimes I'll pour some of that structured water, just even if I want a little bit more of like a zizz or a yummy like infusion. This water bottle is amazing. It adds hydrogen to the water. So it's rechargeable, and you just press this button and you'll see that it'll start working the water. There's not water in it right now. And then you have water that has a lot of hydrogen, which is really good for your body for a wide array of reasons. So this is like the super water. If I make it to this step, I'm really drinking some revitalized water. Trying to think, other fun things I do. So I have this like coaster. It's a rose quartz coaster. If you put crystals, like crystal infused water. So I set my water on the rose quartz, and I feel like that's more magic and it's just pretty and fun. But I think there's something to it, rose quartz helps to infuse things with unconditional love, stuff like that. So it's a whole world. If you get into this, it's just like, you could just invest so much. So you really want to find what works for you and what feels good to you. I've also, heard that you can infuse the water with affirmations and with love, and you can just spend a moment holding it and say, thank you. Like, thank you for providing nourishment and hydration. And that will restructure the water is kind of the idea. So that's possible as well. You don't necessarily need all of the things, but I would say base level, filter and remineralize. It's really not that expensive. It just takes a little bit of extra thought and time, and then you shift the pattern, and then you're drinking this like really highly mineralized, hydrating water. Let me know if you have questions, by the way. I was like just nervous to talk about this because it's just like, it's kind of a lot. But I love doing it. I really do. It makes me really appreciate water. Did you feel a change between before and after implementing your process? My change wasn't like huge, if that makes sense. Like, I wasn't suffering from really bad health conditions and switched out my water and started feeling this huge change. I do feel hydrated. I feel like my skin is really nourished, and I feel like my organs have what they need. Like I just feel hydrated is the best way. And I know that if I, for whatever reason, run behind on my water rituals and don't have the water that I like to drink, I don't drink as much water. Like I'll just kind of sip the tap water or water from the drinking fountain. Like it kind of grosses me out. Like I can taste the chemicals and I don't feel like it's hydrating me. So I do notice that, like I do feel hydrated, but I can't say there's a stark before and after. But now that I've gone with this, I can't go back. Like I find that I won't drink water if I don't have at least filtered. Like I can drink some RO water, but I know that it's not really hydrating me. But if it's filtered and remineralized, that's like the base level of what I need to really gulp a glass of water. Which mineralizing method do you prefer the most, i.e. the salt method or the machine? I love the machine just because it makes a big batch. And I just know that like this will fill up both my water bottles and the hydrogen health. And then that's enough water to last me through like a day and a half. And rather than having, and I don't know, I haven't done much research about how many scoops of the salt that you need. Like that's something that I'll just do in the morning. And it's kind of, it's like salty water and I'll squeeze lemon in it. And it tastes really good. So that's just like an extra bonus, but you definitely, if you wanted to get your minerals for the day, I feel like you could just use like a salt, and you don't need this fancy container. Sacred geometry restructures the water too. So there's something about this container that restructures this water. You could use a mason jar. Like I've done this before with a mason jar. You could just get big Himalayan salt chunks, put them in the water, put the RO water in it, and then it creates this salty infusion. I have a dumb question. How do you lift your containers to your store, especially the 7-gallon? This is not a dumb question. It's a great question. So it's 5-gallon. It's 7 gallons total because I have my 2 1-gallon and then the big 5-gallon. And I have a cart. So I put it in the cart and then I wheel the cart out to the car and then I lift the 5-gallon into the car and then bringing it in. Sometimes I do it, but sometimes I have my partner do it for me. So he's really helpful in helping me. But yeah, it's definitely a thing. I mean, it has a handle on the side, so that's helpful. You could get a cart. You could ask for help. You could use it to build your strength. There's something about it to me that like when I drink water now, I don't take it for granted like I did before. Like there was a lot that went into it. Like I remember one time I was at the grocery store and there was this guy filling up next to me and he looks at me, he's like, "This is the modern day water hole." I was like, yeah, kind of like grabbing your containers, going there, filling it, like that energy investment, it's become a ritual for me. So I'm used to it, but it's an upfront investment for sure to get used to something like that. But think of it as an honor. Like I'm carrying this water, like, thank you, water. I'm so glad I have access to fresh water. This is an honor to be able to recreate this water, to drink this water. So that really helps. But if you can't do it, just definitely, ask for help. You could get smaller containers. They have like 3 gals too at the store. So you could do, 2-3 gals, something like that. Thank you for your kind answer. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. I mean, it's a really good question. It's a lot of water to lift. And especially I was doing glass before. I was just like, I really believe in the glass, but is it safe? Not really. So yeah. Is there any other questions before we close? This was really fun. Thank you so much for this idea and for tuning in and sticking with me. It was definitely not a traditional YouTube video that I've done. It was more artsy, more creative, but I like sharing a little bit of the rituals that I do. And it was really fun to let water teach me about femininity too. If you ever have any ideas, feel free to share them with me of things you want me to talk about. And if you have any questions, you can always ask those in the comments afterwards. Be sure to answer. Do you do water meditation? No, but that sounds amazing. Like meditating by the water or a meditation on water. Might just have given me a good idea to do a meditation about water. or the water in the body. Like I've done meditations around like, let's say the full moon in Cancer, which is a water sign. So contemplating the water in the body, but never a water meditation. Yeah, you can meditate with your water too, and that could restructure it, things like that. And if you want to work with me, you can definitely send me an email, check out my website and some of the services I offer. I love offering nervous system education, embodiment, helping you to learn how to soften, to be more in the body, to feel safer in the body, and to really maneuver in spirit and in heart through life. I work most often with high achievers, but if you have a resonance with me, I'm open to having a conversation with you and hearing a little bit more about you. So thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I so appreciate you, and hopefully I will see you next Wednesday.